Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of FanFictionally. I wanted to thank everybody for showing so much support with episode 1. It was very exciting. Thanks for all the subscriptions and questions and views and likes and everything. It means a lot. It makes me feel special, and I'm glad that you guys have questions for me. And these are topics that, people are interested in. So it's really exciting. No coffee this week because I am not feeling that great. So I've just got a cup of water, but go ahead, grab a beverage, have a seat, and we'll get into it. This week we're going to talk about coming up with original ideas, maybe spinning old ideas into new ideas, and then kind of the differences between readers and OCs. Of course, we've got questions, we've got results from the Fuck, Marry, Kill and Would You Rather from last week, and then we have a new bit for One's Gotta Go too. So we can get straight into it with questions, I guess. We got a few more this week than we had last week, so I'm very excited about that. And the first one is from DeBrownFro on YouTube. Asked, when would you consider killing off a character? So that's a good question for, I guess, for my novel. It's difficult, and I know that that's a decision I'm going to have to make because it'll make the story more interesting. The only problem is that I'm really attached to all of my characters and I don't want to kill any of them off. But, killing off a main character or a character that you've managed to get your reader super attached to kind of makes for a good read too. An emotional read, I guess you could say. Fan fiction wise, I think that's up to the writer, I guess. I try to put elements of actual One Piece universe into my fics. So sometimes if a reader, my bad. Sometimes if a character's died in the anime or manga, I might kill them off in the book as well. Or in the case of my Ace book, He Fell from the Sky, he dies in the One Piece world and is banished, I guess you could say, to our universe, which is how I got away with having it be kind of a crossover because there's flashbacks and things like that involved in that. And if you've read the one, there's a big emotional part in that as well, with as far as Pops goes, which I'm sure you all can imagine what that means. Sorry, spoilers if you just started reading that. It's apparent pretty early on what's going to happen with that, so just prepare yourselves for those chapters. But yeah, so I do consider killing off characters if for the sake of the story, I guess you could say. I don't want to do it, but I will, I guess. So there's that. White Rabbit on Wattpad had an interesting question. So she said, or they said, sorry, I'm trying to keep it gender neutral here. I don't know. I don't want to assume. If the book has something controversial or offensive, is posting it a good idea? That's hard because sometimes that's what makes the book. I've read a lot of books that have some content that's very sensitive, but I don't think it's a bad thing to post. I think it gives character development. It makes for an interesting story. I do definitely think if you're posting online, you should warn your readers. Like on Wattpad, you post chapter by chapter, so you can have kind of a content warning, at the beginning of the chapters, which I've noticed a lot of people who have, suicidal thoughts or sometimes cutting or just depression, rape, things like that, things that are, controversial, usually have a warning posted. I think if you don't have a warning posted, you should. Not everybody wants to read that. It's very triggery for people. So it's good to know what's coming or what lies ahead, I guess you could say. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to post. I do think it's a good idea to let your readers know what they're getting into, though. So the next question is from Abyss Chronica. I have a feeling we're going to have a question from her every week. But, she asked, when reading fan fiction, what are elements that you don't like that make you drop it? Ooh. So I'm kind of picky with fan fiction, and that might not be the best thing all the time, because there's probably some people who have good ideas, but they're not executed very well. If the writing isn't done well, I'm probably not gonna read it. And I know that sounds terrible. And by not done well, I mean if there's just like shit tons of exclamation marks like at the end of every sentence or every bit of dialogue, or it's full of run-on sentences, things don't make sense. If you have a hard time following what's going on in the story, those are kind of base things that make it not enjoyable to read. Other things that make things not enjoyable for me to read would be having the main characters fall in love too quickly. That always annoys the shit out of me. I understand the concept of love at first sight. I've got those elements in some of my books, but there's a way to finesse that into a story and not have it be 5 seconds and they're all over each other, getting married or whatever, having sex even. Too many lemons is annoying for me, I think. I don't necessarily think you shouldn't have them, because I definitely do. But mine are pretty sparse. I don't mind if you've got one in every chapter, but there's ways to do it. I know that in your story, Abyss and Captive, there's quite a few, but they're all tastefully done or well done, and not all of them are like full on sex and not raunchy, I guess. Which brings me to another. I don't like raunchiness. And there's also descriptive terms that are huge turnoffs. If you're describing a kiss, even thinking about this is grossing me out. But if you're describing a kiss and you call the person's mouth a wet cavern, I'm never going to read your book again. I just want you to know it's gross. And ugh. No one's mouth is a wet cavern. That's just a disgusting way of describing someone's mouth. And I don't appreciate it. Sorry. Okay. I grossed myself out. So anyway, so those are a few things that will automatically make me stop reading. I think I read something once where the main character sees the OP character, One Piece character, and shouts like, "Oh my God, he's so hot." And that's the start of their like interaction with each other. And that's just not very realistic. No one's going to do that. And if you do that, you are a little weird, but, hey, whatever, I guess. I was just like, what? This is no, it has to be a little believable, you guys, come on. So, those are some of the things that will keep me from reading a book, I guess. Poke Harvest on Wattpad said, how do you stay motivated when you're writing stories? They often find themselves dropping halfway because of loss of motivation / inspiration. That is a really good question. And I kind of covered it last week when we talked about writer's block. So keeping myself motivated sometimes is moving on to another project. And that's why I have so many stories that are unfinished, because I go bouncing around between them. But keeping yourself motivated, I think, means maybe if you're stumped on something, to move on to something else, write a one shot, like I said last week. Add some drama, but make sure it goes with your story. Don't just do it for the fun of it. You have to make sure that it fits in. And also talking it out with other people as well, really helps. So I do, when I'm stuck, I do talk to my friends about where I'm stuck and what I'm stuck with, and see if we can come up with a way of getting me unstuck or more motivated. Sometimes, as weird as this sounds, I like to go on Pinterest and look at fan art. And that kind of helps me sometimes get to a place where I'm feeling good about it and want to keep writing. Next question is from Green on YouTube. How do you respond to comments that are rude or unrelated to the book? Example would be if there's a conversation that branches out into a personal conversation. Should I leave them be and bear with the notifications, or take them to my DMs? That's a really good question. And I think a lot of writers on Wattpad have a bit of a struggle with rude comments, because a lot of the readers, no offense to my younger readers, are young and don't really understand that sometimes what you're saying is not nice. I think it depends on the context of the comments, whether you should say something to them in your comments or take it to your DMs. I've definitely DM'd people before and said, hey, this isn't appropriate, and if you keep doing it, I'm going to mute you. And if you don't know what muting is on Wattpad, it just means you're going to block them. So then they can't be in your comments anymore. I did have someone that I muted from my Ace book because they decided that telling me that I was ruining my own storyline by not explaining exactly the scientific or whatever reason for him coming from the One Piece world to our world when he died was, and also gave me a lot of shit for not having his parents in our world, and for not having Whitebeard in our world as well. Which, to be honest, there's a ton of comments on that book about Whitebeard, which is why the last chapter that I wrote exists in that one. I did it for you guys so you'd stop asking me, so I could give you some clarity and some closure on that subject. But if you haven't read that book, go read it and check it out. I did mute that person because before I even got a chance to address their rude comments, my other writer friends actually hopped in and started defending me, which I really appreciate. I love you guys. Thank you so much for doing that. And kind of was putting them in their place. I don't think it's a great idea to have a full-on argument in your comments. It's not a good look to new readers. You don't want them to see that and think that you're aggressive and stuff like that. Though the comments this person was leaving were pretty aggressive. So I think, readers would understand. But I have also told readers who've started personal conversations in my comments, not that it was, I think at first it started out innocent and then they started to argue with each other. And when they started to argue with each other, that's when I came in. I was like, okay, you guys need to stop. Stop commenting or I'm going to mute you because this is my book and you're blowing me up. So I don't think it's a bad thing to, if they're continuously having a conversation, to politely go into your comments and say, polite but stern, go into your comments and say, can you guys take it to your DMs, please? Because there's no reason to have a full-on conversation in someone's comment section. If you guys really want to have an argument, go somewhere else and do it, please. Don't do it in somebody's book. It's so disrespectful. So I don't think there's a problem with that. So yeah, I just think it depends on the conversation that they're having and if they're really the level of rudeness. I have had people leave rude comments and I've left them alone before. I think sometimes you just have to pick your battles. Would be the most adult response I could have, I think, for you. But that was a really good question. Thanks. This next question is from my beautiful friend Danny Laurel on Wattpad. Asked, Do you like to listen to audiobooks? Do you like physical books or prefer ebooks better? So this is gonna sound really fucking terrible, but I'm before maybe the last few years, I wasn't really a big reader. I've never had audiobooks, so I don't know. I'm sure I would probably be down because I don't mind listening to stuff. I have a few physical books, but they're, the popular crap. Like, I have the Twilight books somewhere that I read when they first came out, because so everybody was reading them, and the Hunger Games. So yeah, I have those. I'm not a huge like book person. I guess you could say ebooks probably because I read a shit ton of Wattpad stories. So that's where we are now. And I've read not just fanfics, but I have read original works too on Wattpad. So it's gotten me into reading, which is probably a good thing for all of us. That was a great question. Thank you. The last one is from WolfieTunes31X, which is my wonderful, beautiful, amazing, talented friend. So if you don't know her, go check out her page. She has some great one-shots. She has some great books. We have a collaboration, actually more than one. And she's also an amazing artist as well. So you should go check out her stuff on Wattpad and DeviantArt. She has the same screen name and also Instagram. Shout outs. So her question to me was, is a fan-based comic considered fan fiction? So yes, I think it is. And the reason I say that is because I did a fan-based comic when I was 8. I did with my friend Rosemary, and it was X-Men. We drew all the characters and had our own little storylines and stuff like that with them, and I didn't realize until very recently that actually was the first bit of fan fiction I ever did. But I mean, you read comics, it has dialogue. So I would consider it the same as fan fiction, but in comic form. So that's my answer to you for that. That was the last question for today. If you guys have more questions, you're more than welcome to hit me up here on YouTube, or on Wattpad. You can DM me or post it on my message board, or you can DM me on Instagram as well. So wherever you can find me social media wise, you can ask me a question. I don't have a preference. It doesn't have to be necessarily about just writing or writing fanfics. So you can ask me about One Piece stuff as well. And maybe some other animes if I have watched them or read the mangas too. So I'm more than happy to answer questions. That is always kind of my favorite thing. So thanks for picking my brain. I hope that those answers sufficed for you guys. So the kind of next thing I wanted to talk about was coming up with original ideas. It's kind of hard now. I feel like you might feel like everything's been done already when coming up with a story, or you might read somebody's story and be super inspired by it and kind of want to do something close to that, which is fine, but it's good to have your own spin and your own take on things and come up kind of with your own original way of doing it. There are a lot of themes that are very popular with One Piece, which would be superheroes and gangs, because they're pirate crews. And who else rolls in crews? Superheroes and gangs. I have read a lot of One Piece fan fictions that have those kind of base parameters, and almost none of them are the same, which is great. There's always something different you can come up with. The superhero bit is a little bit more difficult because obviously what their powers are going to be is probably whatever devil fruit they have in the One Piece world, which is a cool way of incorporating their devil fruits into the real world, to be completely honest. But you could also give characters that don't have devil fruits a power, I guess you could say. So you could give Zoro a power and he doesn't have one. But so that's kind of a way of keeping it original. If you want to have everybody have a power, you could base something they do off of or like I guess a specific skill that they have that they're known for, maybe, as their power somehow. There's another popular one that people use, which is Soulmate AU, so Soulmate Alternate Universes. I did one with Frankie, actually, and I've seen a lot of these, and there's a bajillion different ways to do it. One that I used is based on, I'm going to say, some sort of mythology where you write on your arm and it appears on your soulmate's arm, and then you can communicate back and forth with them. I don't know exactly where that came from, so I'm sure if you do, just shout out and let me know, because that'd be cool to know. But in this one, the reader is an artist, and she doesn't have a soulmate or isn't assigned a soulmate when she's 16 like everybody else does. But she has a habit of painting on herself, and that's kind of how she finds out that she has a soulmate, is she does a painting and her soulmate replies to it. And the reason that she didn't have a soulmate when she was younger was because he's much older than her. So they didn't know about each other until she was, I guess, I don't want to say of age because that sounds kind of gross, but until she was older. So, so there's that. And then he ends up getting the tattoos of the stars on his forearms, which show up on her arms permanently because they're tattoos, for her, because she paints stars and galaxies a lot. So I felt like that was kind of a different take on it. I hadn't really seen one that was quite like that before. And I also paint, so I thought that it would be a cool kind of a more original or fresher take on that kind of AU. So there's different ways of doing that. There's another kind of soulmate AU, I guess you could say. It's more of a forced soulmate, which is my closure book. And that book is actually a spinoff off of a one-shot that I did, which is with Marco. So I really recommend reading that one because I wrote it for a competition that Abyss Chronica was having, and I really just love writing for Marco. But so he was dating the reader. Neither of them had been assigned their partner or mate yet. And then he gets assigned his. And there's like a time frame you have to meet. So once you're assigned to your partner, you can be in a relationship before that. It's not illegal, but it is illegal to be in a relationship after you've been assigned your partner. So the day you're assigned your partner, you have to break up with whoever you're dating. So that kind of ends their relationship, and they'd been together for 6 years. So, which is why it's so like she's so distraught, and he is too. And within 6 months, you move in with and marry your new partner. So it kind of flashes back to their relationship and how it ended. And the reader in that book is a pastry chef. She owns her own cake shop, and she's making his wedding cake, basically. And so it's kind of her having to deal with doing this for his wedding and how heartbreaking that is for her. Excuse me. And then things happen, they hook up, and then you find out after, that's kind of their closure on their relationship. And the night before his wedding, Marco, what the fuck? And that's kind of the closure on their relationship. And then he finds out that she's been matched as well, and she hasn't been matched for very long. They maybe a few weeks, so they just moved in with each other or something like that. and surprise, her match is Law. And then from there, you guys really begged me to make that into a book. So I'm glad you did, because it's made for a really interesting, angsty book. The feels are high in that one. And I really like it. But it's so that's kind of a take on a soulmate situation. But kind of not really, I guess. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look at it. I feel like it is. So there's that. And I can't really think of any other examples. I've never done a gang or a superhero situation. Maybe I should. I did introduce kind of a gang situation in the one, but I'm not really going to get too crazy into that. Because it doesn't really fit with the story, where the story is going right now, but it will be addressed more probably in The Brothers, which is the spinoff of that book. If you haven't read it, check it out. That is the same reader from the one, but it's when she's 17, I think is the age that I made her in that one. So it's basically when they first adopt Ace, Sabo, and Luffy, and kind of how the Newgate family has to adjust to having the three boys, and how the three boys have to adjust to having them. And I really like that one. So I'll probably cover that more in that, because it's the age that she is when Pops and Marco and Thatch, and then we'll be kind of more involved in street stuff and the protection that they're providing. So you'll see more of that as we go along in that book. But superheroes, I'm not very keen on. I mean, I like comics and stuff, but I'm not really great with that kind of thing. So you probably won't see me do it, but I definitely encourage you guys to give it a shot. I'm always down to read it. That's for sure. So y'all should try it out. The next thing I wanted to talk about was readers, and readers versus OCs. I don't really write OCs. It's just not my thing. I think when I first started, I tried doing a book with an OC, and it didn't come out well. Which sounds silly, because I'm writing a novel and all of them are OCs, but it's a little bit different. They're not interacting with One Piece characters. So, I do have a different take on readers. So if you don't know what OC means, it means original character. And there are a few books that I read that have OCs, like Unforeseen is a fantastic book, and that is One Piece OC. And the main character, May, if you read that book, you'll see I've done quite a bit of fan art for it, actually. But the way she writes the OC is she's very interesting and has a really interesting personality and past. And while I feel attached to her, I still feel like I don't know her. There's more to learn about her. So that's very interesting to me, and it's nice to see that. So, shout outs to you, Danny Laurel. That's a fantastic book, and you do the OC very well. So keep it up, my friend. But, I'm not really into writing OCs. And maybe that's just because I haven't tried it again since my writing skills have gotten a bit better. Maybe I'll try it again at some point. I like to do my readers, sort of as an OC, and that might sound a little bit silly. The point of having a reader insert is that anyone can read it and be the reader. So a lot of readers are very bland and kind of personality-less, and have very, 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 very so limited physical definition, I guess, or description. And I kind of don't like to do that. I don't feel like I don't feel like I know all of you, so I can't make a reader bend to all of you, if that makes sense. The reader's not going to have your personality because I don't know your personality. The reader can't have your hairstyle because I don't know your hairstyle. There are things in reader inserts that drive me nuts. Like, I understand the using Y/N or F/N for your name or first name, which I always use first name and last name. The thing I do really not like is the eye color and hair color thing. You can get away with not having to do that by just saying your hair or your eyes. It doesn't have to specify eye or hair color. I know a lot of you guys do it, and I read your stuff and I love you guys. I just don't do it. It drives me nuts. Excuse me, I need some water. Anyway, so that's some reader stuff that I don't like. I also don't like that all the readers have to be these tiny little women. That's kind of annoying to me. I like to have readers with different body types. If you've read my Sanji book, the reader in that is chubby. In Silent, she's curvy. I'm a curvy person, so it's more relatable for me. But I have a feeling that not all of my readers are teeny tiny little, like, skinny toothpick ladies. So I don't like to have that. My idea for a reader is that when you're reading it, you are pretending to be the reader, not that the reader's pretending to be you, if that makes sense. So I do get comments in some of my books where I say that the reader has long hair, and I'll get comments that I don't have long hair, or I would never say that, or I don't have freckles because Gypsy in Silent has freckles. So it kind of takes it to an OC kind of reader mix, I guess. But the idea is that you're pretending you're that person. So in this story you do. And in the next story, you're going to be a little bit different. And your personality is not going to be the same because it's a different book. and different books have different readers. And it's not all the same person. And that's so uninteresting and unimaginative if you are just cookie cuttering your readers to all kind of be the same person. In Abyss Chronica's book, Captive, the reader, who we all are affectionately now referred to as Birdie because that's what Kid calls her, is very opinionated and sarcastic and hard-headed and a good match for him. Not all of us are like that. So I think that that's a fantastic representation of giving a reader a personality, but still allowing it to be a reader and not necessarily an OC. When you read that book, you are Birdie. Just like, hopefully, when you read Silent, you are Gypsy. And it's funny because Gypsy's a little more optimistic and smiley and cute and can kill you with her voice, you know. she's lethal in an aspect, but you don't expect it because she comes off so sweet. So I just think it's a good idea to have that and to treat your readers differently in different books. I don't think they all have to have the same personality just to get away with making readers happy. Like I said, you guys, when you're reading the book, I want you to pretend that you're the reader, not pretend that the reader is you. So the reader's going to do stuff that is stuff you wouldn't do, because that would make life so much more interesting, wouldn't it? It's the same as reading a novel. You're the main character in the novel, or that's how I read novels anyway. So there's, that's what I'm going to say about that. Hopefully that's helpful to some people who are trying to develop their readers more. I definitely think you should have interesting character development for your readers. Have an interesting past, have something quirky that they do, have a strong personality, for your readers. Not everybody has to be a damsel in distress. That gets old after a while. That's a really old trope, I guess you could say, or archetype, whatever, that I'm not into. I don't like having my readers have to be saved by all the time, or saved all the time. Save the boys sometimes. Sometimes the boys need help because let's face it, in real life, the boys need help. I'm just kidding. Kind of. Anyway, that's my take on readers, and OCs. Just change it up and, moving on. So last week we played a game of Would You Rather. And the Would You Rather was, would you rather have a crappy quirk from Boku no Hero Academia, where you would, probably not be a hero, but be on the support staff? Or would you have a contractor from Darker Than Black, and your payment for that power or ability would be that you have to break your finger every single time you use your ability? And the overwhelming majority of you chose to have a shitty quirk. So I guess not everybody's okay with breaking their fingers and to have to pay for having a cool ability. And some people said that they would do the best that they could with their shitty quirk. There's always something that you could do, I guess, or be the best with your shitty quirk that you could be. So there's that. This week's Would You Rather is a devil fruit edition. Would you rather have a devil fruit that turns you into a mouse, or have a devil fruit that amplifies your voice so that you can't even whisper without killing people? So I kind of stole that from my silent book. The reason why she's silent is because her devil fruit has amplified her voice. So even at a whisper, she can make your ears bleed. And if she's close enough to you, can kill you. It will make your brain explode, which she does in the most recent chapter. So you would never be able to talk normally again or make a sound even. You can't really laugh. You can't hum. You can't sing. You can't whisper. Nothing. Or you could be a mouse. And I guess the key points to having a zone devil fruit would be at least you'd have other forms, but I don't know, I'm kind of concerned what those other forms would be for a mouse. So that would be interesting. So you guys let me know. Would you rather be a mouse, have a mouse devil fruit, the mouse fruit, or have a devil fruit that amplifies your voice to a point where you can't speak out loud, and have to either use sign language or notes, I guess, to communicate with other people? There's that. And then we have from last week's edition of Fuck, Marry, Kill, also an overwhelming amount of people would marry Luffy, and that I don't understand. And then a few people changed their answer after a while to Sanji, because he would feed you at least. He would feed you and make you feel loved. That's for sure. Luffy, I think, would annoy the fuck out of you for eternity. It'd be like being married to a kid mentally for, the rest of your life. You'd be explaining things or stopping him from doing things or losing him in the grocery store. You'd have to put a leash on him. And thanks to the people who said they would fuck Zoro and immediately apologized to me. I appreciate that. It made me laugh. But yeah, so a ton of people apparently would marry Luffy. You guys have some explaining to do. I just want to know the logic behind that. So if you can leave me a comment, if you were one of those people, let me know, because I'm very interested in that one. This week's Fuck, Marry, Kill is going to be the ladies. So your choices are Your choices are Nami, Robin, and Perona. So fuck, marry, kill, Nami, Robin, Perona. And I think that I would, oof, Robin is really marriage material, I think. And she and I are the same age, or close to the same age. So I think I would marry Robin. Oh, I love me some Perona though. I would marry Robin, I would fuck Perona, and I would kill Nami. I'm sorry, Nami, I love you, but you have a lot of attitude that I don't need in my life. So you guys let me know who you would fuck, marry, kill. Nami, Robin, or Perona. And we'll talk about it on next week's episode. And then the final thing we have is this week I had you guys pick the characters for One's Gotta Go. And we have an interesting, it was an interesting batch this week, actually, because we only got, 4 ladies, kind of repeated multiple times. And 2 of them are characters that I wouldn't have thought we would even get. So, our female choices for One's Gotta Go is Robin and Porsche from the Foxy Pirates, Ryuji, Sanji's sister, and Koala. So the first one to go for me is going to be Koala because I fucking hate her. And I know that a lot of people love her and ship her with Sabo. I do not. I can't stand her. I know we haven't seen her a whole lot, but in just about every scene she's been in with Sabo, she's nagging the shit out of him, and I can't. I just don't like her. So there's that. And then the next one to go would be Porsche because I don't really know her. I'm not gonna lie. And yes, I am gonna kick out Koala before I kick out the character I don't really know. Sorry. And then I would kick out Ryuji because I mean, she was good to Sanji at least, but she could have gone with him instead of staying with his horrible, shitty family, I guess. I don't know. So, she's not that bad. And of course, I would keep Robin because I just love Robin. I think she's a great character. I think she's kind of part of the calm in the storm that is the Straw Hat Pirates. But she's also, as kind of serious as she is, she's also very silly. And so I really appreciate that. About her. Robin I really like her personality. She really entertains me. So there's that. So I will post for next week's group of characters that we're going to do for One's Gotta Go. We're wrapping it up here now. So thanks for tuning in, you guys. Thanks for all the questions. Thank you for participating in my silly little games. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, like, and comment below. And if you need to get a hold of me anywhere, my Wattpad is Lindsay H. That's LYNDSYH. On DeviantArt, I'm Lindsay24. Again, LYNDSY24. On Instagram, I am Art by Lindsay. And on Twitter, I am at the Lady Bun Bun. So feel free to reach out to me on any of those platforms with questions or answers to any of the questions that we've asked here at the end of the podcast. Or, if you guys think you have a good idea for Would You Rather, or